Win Zero is going to be up here in just a moment. I want to recognize our sheriff for showing up here today. That's very nice. Sarah? Okay. You folks want to go ahead and start getting your food, go on ahead. And Brandon Webb, who's the CEO of Win Zero, is going to come on up and with a couple of his associates, I guess, and start the presentation. Now, before they get started, folks, we want to make this a nice, fun, informative meeting. We don't want any shouting or hollering or finger pointing. It's all being recorded. And this is an informational presentation only. We will analyze what they're going to present to us and go forward from there. It won't happen today. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. CEO Win Zero. My name is Brandon Webb, and we're here this morning to share a very preliminary plan that we would like to.
Brandon, can you stand up there?
Sure. Yeah. So we're here this morning just to share our plan with the community of No Mirage and Untitled. Just a brief background on myself. I've been a resident of San Diego for a little over 13 years. Most of that time I spent in the Navy. I was stationed at Coronado, and the last 4 years of my service was spent in a training capacity. So before that, I have deployed overseas several times, all the places no one wants to go, like Afghanistan, Iraq. My last 4 years in training, one thing I learned in training, especially having a family, is I went to a training role to take a break, because we were starting to build a family with my wife, and it was time to take a break. So I promised my wife, hey, I'll go to Shorty, spend some time in training, and give the family a break. So what I found out was I was gone more in that role than when I was deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan. Mainly because all of our training in the Navy was done out of state. We had to go to the East Coast and the Midwest. So from an operational tempo, I was gone almost 80% of the time away from home before I even deployed overseas. Pre-training role. Now, when I'm in training, I'm gone all the time. We have to get and set up ahead of guys before they even show up for the training. So it became really apparent to me that one, a need for a facility that could provide training to the public and law enforcement military. There was definite need in Southern California for that. And the second realization that I made was I need to get out of the Navy because I want to still have a wife and family. So I made the decision about 1.5 years ago to get out and start a company with a friend of mine who was also in the Navy and out running a business. He said, hey, let's look into this and start writing a business plan around a facility. So that's who I am and who Win Zero is. We really found out real quick that this type of facility was not going to be built by us in San Diego. We just didn't have the money to do it. The money, and when we started looking at the land in San Diego, a lot of concerns around environment. Right? We really took that into consideration to the point where we said maybe we should start looking in Imperial Valley or other places outside of San Diego that would be less affected by this type of facility. So we met with Gert Kuberger and had a very preliminary meeting with him about, hey, this is who we are, this is what we would like to do, what do you guys think? Because we don't want to come into a community, we want to be welcome. We thought that it was a good fit for, and would bring a lot of good to the community, what we're doing. And when I talk about that, I'm talking jobs and tax revenue and stuff like that. So we're here today to really answer any questions or address concerns about what we'd like to do out there. The plan is in very early stages. We haven't even submitted our application, and it was important to us to come out here and get the input from the community, because the plan has changed already with with Jörg Huber's team, they said, you know, they brought up some very good points around water usage, dust mitigation, the noise, which are all very good concerns, and we've got really good plans around all those issues, and we welcome the questions. Mike Taylor is our contractor and is also here to answer more of the technical questions around the development that I may not be able to answer. So with that said, we can, Jeff is the president of Wind Zero. This would be our concept plan right now. And you can see the interstate 8 right here. And I'll just walk through it, and then we'll open it up to questions. So we have a driving or road track that would be well suited for it's a driver's education emergency vehicle track. A city track that is well suited for also the law enforcement training right now. I spoke with Chief Obesa over a year ago, and the driving facilities are in high demand in Southern California, period. There's no tracks that are available locally, and especially for driving clubs and like the Porsche driving club or the BMW driving club that would come out on the weekend and use something like that as well. We have our ranges in here. We have a shotgun sporting play track and speed area. The archery range down here, which we specifically took input from the Boy Scouts. They mentioned an interest in having an archery range, so we put that into the plan. The main entrance, Molitor Road, you can see is right here. It was an issue that was brought up amongst us that we did not want to affect any of the residents on Molitor, so we planned our main entrance down the 98. And the main entrance, which we have an artist rendition of, looks like this. So that would be our entrance off of the 98.
Wow, that's nice.
Thank you. So just to finish, we have a pro shop, dining facility, and we also are planning an RV, recreational RV park down there as well. And that park is really planned to service the facility. It would be open to anybody that was coming out to the desert to do any of the off-road vehicle stuff as well. The other thing that we felt was important is we are truly sensitive to the environment. I've been personally a member of the Sierra Club for a while now, and I joined as a company. And believe me, when you spend time in the military, having that membership comes with problems. So as far as the environment goes, we plan to power the entire facility with renewable energy. So solar being the primary choice for us, and also wind. And so that's also what we're looking at for that. And I will open the floor up to questions.
So I assume then that you have drawn the plan of the facilities in keeping with that information you received from the planning department?
So if I understand the question correctly, the plan that we have so far has been with the input of the planning department, correct? And that is why we are here today, because the plan is not set in stone. We want input from the residents. Like,
It seems strange to me that Newberger would allow that type of facility, given that he has put so many, he has stopped so many other projects in the area, even small trailer parks of local residents. So and knowing what the water situation over there is,
How far down 98 were you planning on putting this entrance?
Curve.
Right in there. This is, it's right at the curve, so you're about 2,000 feet down
From Molitor,
from Molitor.
for the last street. And the noise, how are you gonna cut down the noise?
The noise is a very good question. We have plans to build up a berm with and vegetation, and there's a product out there, Phil, the
LSC, where we can put, they have fences that we can put behind the shooting that absorb the noise as you fire.
How tall is this going to be? Very high.
How much of our view and are you going to block?
Well, that's one thing that Bev brought up, and we're here to work with you on the view, because the last thing we want to do is put in a big noisy facility that's going to block the view.
Well, the riding, the tracks where they're riding, that will create noise.
The plan is to eliminate virtually all the noise altogether. So
That's your plan, but I don't see how you can eliminate all noise.
We use sound absorbing fencing that actually absorb.
it's the same fencing that they use when they build up homes directly adjacent to the freeway. It's the same thing, and it creates a dead zone over there.
With all the desert properties out here and where you don't have any residential homes, anybody trying to live a life, why would you pick that spot where you have people living? I mean, why don't you go somewhere else where there's no one living? I mean, that's going to impact, that's on my retirement. You know, what answer do you have for that?
The answer is this was the last, when we looked at land, we looked at the location, the environmental impact, we took those into concerns, and where would it affect the least amount of residents. And if there were residents there, could we build this in harmony with the existing residents, which is our goal here today, to brief the plan and see if we can do this in harmony with the residents and keep the view corridors and the concerns that Bev mentioned earlier to me, take those into consideration and plan around it.
What kind of jobs will be available? You anticipate will be available?
We have about 20 service jobs that would be created out there. So that would be like range maintenance, to helping out with the dining facility and stuff like that, service jobs like that.
Is this a year-round facility? Will it be open?
It would be open to the public year-round. Yes.
So are you assuring us that there's going to be cars racing around a track and we're not going to hear it?
Yeah.
The one thing when we looked at the track was we located it close to the freeway where the...
Well, I can hear trucks going up the freeway when they change into low gears, and when that happens at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, it's not really terrific.
And that's...
So if one truck, if I can hear a truck going up the grade, I can't imagine how I'm not going to hear race cars going
And it's
not
around the track.
That's a really
hear it now.
Good question.
A freeway generates 100, the highest you can get, and the noise on a freeway is all dependent upon the truck traffic. And if you get on Interstate 10 in certain portions, it's 104, 110 decibels.
So how many decibels is the track going to be at its highest?
You would probably be, because it's mostly not high-speed driving, but it would probably be 70, and with the berming, you could bring it down.
And the type of driving, it's not
It's not a
it's not how,
racetrack.
yeah, it's not, it would be like a driver's, if you send a teenager out for a defensive driving course, it would be a low-speed course that they would learn how to drive. So it's not a NASCAR type or really that type of racetrack. It's really
So do you stop all of the quads and all the things that are going past your house? Do you do that?
We
Yeah, the
put up with all
crowds
those-
and stuff are a
some
lot
of them
louder.
even moved in a house, built the house across the street from us, and they come with their ATVs and go up and down our road with their ATVs. Of course, it's only on the weekends.
Monday.
You said you're building fences. Are these fences going to be similar to the ones that are on the freeways? They're like 12 feet tall masonry poles?
the type
What
of
you're talking about?
the type of fences would be up against the ranges, so they would absorb and deflect any sound away from the road.
Would that be along Molotov?
Yeah, Bill?
If you see here, depending on where the range is, we've got a range here, gun ranges here. This distance, right in here, we're sending right now, most of these ranges are 600-700 feet. Yeah, 600 feet.
600 feet.
This is 660 feet right there.
And would that be pointed, I mean, which way would they shoot?
They're being shot out this way.
To the east.
And what is the fence? Is it like a masonry fence, 10, 12 feet tall?
It's 6'8". You can make it as high depending.
Yeah.
As you want, that you have to absorb it. That's when we get into each rain and what it is shooting, then the elevation of the fence, everything like that.
So are you fencing on Molitor, close to your property line? Is that what
No.
it is?
Yeah,
The
yeah, because that's where the
fences are on
shooting.
the
Because
range.
I'm on Molitor too, and,
Yeah.
It's 660 feet off of.
okay. The other thing I want to say is when you, your statement on environment, you say you're from San Diego, I'm from San Diego too. And you say the concerns of environment in San Diego, well, there's concerns here too.
Yeah, I agree.
County has concerns, and
Yeah, there was just, there's definitely concerns, but there was a lot less concerns in this environment comparatively speaking to San Diego. So I agree with you, and that's,
That's like saying we're not as important.
No, the concern.
Yeah, it is.
in terms of-
Yeah, it
It's a concern in terms of having enough space to be able to accommodate something like this of the 983 acres.
Texas
That's the problem though,
And
sir.
she
You
knew they
can't-
were gonna do
You
it.
have to take our police force, you have to take the Navy to go, we'll be to Texas.
taxes for that to train our police force?
In Texas, though.
Let's keep it down to one person speaking at a time, please. Okay?
Joe Shuda from Akatia. Yeah, I'm wondering about your credibility, what I'm even hearing from you right here. So I'm looking at your open letter to the Akatia community, and it says current land use, and I see exaggerations and misconceptions here. It says the current land is strewn with litter, used cartridges and shell case. Well, it's not strewn with litter. There is some litter out there. So and it says due to annual grading. Now there has been some grading, but there is no annual grading. So when I'm seeing what you have put out in your writing, and you have already put misconceptions here, you've already basically lied here as to what the current land use is, and then I listen to you here, and your credibility has already been a little bit eroded, or quite a bit eroded, when you put it in writing, and then I'm hearing you say something that we can't back up until after the fact.
I really would just strongly disagree with that statement. The things that we put in there, as far as the trash and the shell casing, I see every time we go out there, so we can disagree on that. Yes, sir?
I think everybody's familiar with little dragging there, and topsoil is steadily destroyed. And so all of us drive Interstate 8, we run into those sandstorms, and that's a direct result of what happens. So just about anything that.
But it's not annual grading.
No, it's not annual
It was a
grading.
grading that occurred at one time, not annual grading that happens every year.
hasn't been
The word
done.
annual means it happens every year currently, and it's being used, and it's causing a problem.
They
The problem is-
may not have understood entirely what
Look, you
happened.
put it right.
Well, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, folks.
I've asked the community, what kind of a business do we want here to generate 20 jobs? I don't think anyone has ever come forward and said, I'm not looking for a dishwashing job. We want the job. Exactly, I mean, I think it's an opportunity. I don't think you're not asking us to sign off on it right now. And I'm
Do you
sure
live
we're
on
not-
Molitor?
Okay, let's
Oh,
get
I
back.
drive Molitor.
Let's get back on track. Let's get back on track and let them take them
Yes, sir?
I want to ask a question. I'm Michael Clark.
Pardon me?
I'm Michael Clark. You say you're going to have gun club out there, correct?
Yes, sir.
People, I've been to gun clubs before in the north, up in Wyoming, Montana, Arizona. People who come from town and city like you do, San Diego, to the rural areas. They store their weapons there. Are you going to do the same? You have a place for people to store their weapons there? I asked a question.
And the answer is yes, especially with the pro shop being there. We have we'd have
There's
our
no
own.
weapons on that land.
Correct.
You gonna provide 24-hour security there?
Yes,
The
sir.
sheriff can't do it, he doesn't have enough men.
Yes, sir.
Wildfire sheriff, you're gonna have, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is this fence going to be? If they're shooting east, is the fence going to be in front of them or behind them?
Behind it.
Behind them toward Molly.
Right.
I had another question. I wanted to know how large would be the largest gun that would be permissible at that range? Are they, and are they automatic, the ones that sound like machine guns?
No, the largest, for the safety factor, the largest gun we would allow there would be like a bolt action rifle that would go up to a 300 Win Mag or 50 caliber.
Bring it on time.
You mentioned law enforcement. We're lucky enough to have the sheriff here. I'd like to have his opinion about what he feels, how this facility could help him or not.
Can I help the sheriffs and the border
He's the
patrol?
guy protecting us.
And just to let...
Just an opinion on the driving track, and the gun range is, I think, is a separate issue, but the driving track is, they are absolutely correct, is that San Bernardino and some of those other areas have established this quite a while ago, and they are sold out. People are, not even the law enforcement can get on, because they are just used so much. And it would be a great addition for us in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Probably rented by the coyotes, right?
Well, at least they drive better, right?
Yeah.
But the range is that, the range, the distance is maybe, but that's.
When I talk to the local law enforcement agencies, the concern was that a lot of the shooting was being done out at the Imperial Valley Rifle Club, and there was no air-conditioned classroom, so they couldn't sit down in an air-conditioned environment like we're in and go over a safety class and then go right out to the range. So that was really the benefit that came from the local areas. Plus, I think the Border Patrol versus the sheriff, they have a much greater need for the actual the range facilities themselves. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Terry Rayner from the Desert Protective Council, and I talked to somebody who shot a lot of different weapons in the Marines, and he told me that at 1,000 yards, the kind of range you're talking about, you can hear that noise for 2 miles.
That's hearsay.
And he said you can hear it loudly for 2 miles.
And I think that's a true statement. If the range isn't designed to eliminate the noise, that would be a true statement, and we're taking that into consideration because that's a concern. Absolutely.
Okay, well, the other thing I'd like to express concern about is that in your letter to the people of Ocotillo, you mentioned the Desert Protective Council working with you to ensure efforts for a native plant garden. And we had a conversation by phone in which we were doing some brainstorming, and I said putting native plants in the open space was a good idea. I just want everybody to know that this is in no way an endorsement by the Desert Protective Council.
And I would just back Terry up that she is absolutely correct. We did have a discussion about the topic, but she at no time endorsed the project. Yes, sir?
Well, are you affiliated with Blackwater in any way?
No, sir.
Or any other organization similar?
No, sir.
Are you training their people at all?
No,
Will they
sir.
be there participating?
They ain't training yet. They have to have a facility.
Now
I have a friend that does this work, and I just want to know if they're going to want to practice.
No, sir. That's not our plan.
Well, it's not your plan. What's the change?
Yeah.
Change.
We are set up to run our own facility with the.
Unless you sell it to somebody, and possibly the government or anything else.
That is definitely. That's not our plan. I've created it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's like, okay, you're 1,000 yards, you're off that much, you're gonna be shooting clear past the city, you know. If you're off that much at 1,000 yards, you're gonna really be shooting a long way.
No, actually, the bullet would go 15,623 feet. With
long
the most
ways
power,
down.
the most powerful.
There's all kinds of people riding motorcycles out there, stuff.
That is four-wheelers. We've taken it into consideration that if anything was overfired at the most perfect angle, it would not hit Interstate 80. And that's how we got
I'm talking about to the east, that's all open, that's not open right there, but it is legal right up.
Yes, sir, everything is,
Yeah.
everything in the range is set up for 100% containment. Statistically, shooting ranges are the safest place to be at. When we looked at our insurance policy, I was shocked at how low the liability quotes, because the insurance agents said, look, the safest part of your day would be on a range, because safety is emphasized so much, and there is a personnel designated on the range watching everybody at all times for safety. So it's one of the safest places you could be. It's more dangerous to get out and walk across the street.
You had mentioned, Jeff, right?
Phil.
Phil, I'm sorry, beg your pardon. You had mentioned a 50 caliber round will only go 1,600 feet.
15,600.
Yeah.
15,600.
So that's in the next county.
It's about 3 miles.
Are you currently or seeking a DOD contract to train DOD personnel?
Can you?
The Department of Defense, are you under contract or seeking a contract with DOD at this particular time? If this was built?
We are not at this time under any contract. And really right now we are so focused on trying to see if this can even work that we haven't had the time to look at any of the contracting opportunities. We've been so busy with
But
trying.
is it your intent? Is it a
For
possibility?
Absolutely to train law enforcement and military, because absolutely. Yeah.
Plenty of places for them to train.
I'll take one.
I ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
We're talking rifle range now. And you're saying that you're not going to train, you're training military.
Correct.
And border patrol.
Correct.
But you're not associated with contract mercenaries.
Yes, sir. That's a true statement. We
You're
have
definitely
no
not
affiliation. We have
But you say rifle won't follow.
Well,
Say
we do
22
not-
will travel, high velocity 22 will travel 1 mile and be deadly. 1 mile, that's not 1 mile. It will be deadly if somebody slipped and fallen, boom, a 22.
Yes,
not
sir.
a 30 out, not a 45, 22.
Any firearms has that potential,
It has
just
the
like a car.
potential.
I've spent the last 4.5 years as a firearm safety instructor for the Navy, and that's why this
is what is
safe.
bothering many people. There is much military background in this facility. We live here year-round. We're not in here on the weekends. We don't come here once or twice to train. We live here year-round. We don't want to see an influx of people that we don't really approve of. Maybe some will do, but some will. They bring their attitudes to the town. And I've seen what mercenaries do. Personally, I've seen it.
I don't understand the part about the...
I'm worried that you will bring the mercenaries here if we approve.
Remember, this is an informational
Sounds like it.
presentation only.
I'll do that.
Reserve your
It
opinion.
don't sound like it, because it's already said.
Just want to get the planning.
My name's Jeanette Hartman, and I chair the Land Use Committee of the Sierra Club. Mr. Webb, first of all, you were a member of the Sierra Club briefly from 2004 to 2005. You're not a member now, and you haven't been a member for a long time.
Where do you live?
And I think that we're going in some type of order here. Secondly, we're working on several of these sites. Potrero is one, Paris in county north of here, Riverside is another one. They have the same profile. Paris and this site have the same profile. It's a Navy SEAL in both cases who buys the land, claims no connection to Blackwater, and they call them the ranch. That's what they call the Potrero site, that's what they call the site in Riverside, and that's probably what they call the site among themselves here too. You're like a bunch of overgrown boys who are playing with toys, only they're very dangerous toys. And this is a systematic effort. This is Bush's private army. And you guys are putting sight on.
You don't live here, so you need to sit down. No, you don't live here.
Everywhere in the United States. This is a very dangerous
Gentlemen, I'll
threat.
talk to you at another time. I'm really interested in this.
Yeah,
We have spoken.
but you don't live here, so you can just keep your mouth quiet.
Excuse me, we have spoken.
Public-
The Sierra
public
Club
forum.
covers Imperial County.
Just
We have spoken
sit
to
down.
people at other sites, and they're very, very frightened and intimidated once you people come in. They're afraid to go out their doors. They've got people marching around the community with semi-automatics or whatever other kind of weaponry you have. It's a terrible
Okay, your 5 minutes is
environment
up.
to live in. Let her talk.
And to
You don't live here.
That doesn't matter.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I don't agree with a lot of what you said, and
Yeah.
I spoke with Cheryl, and when you're correct. I had a membership 2004, 2005, and the company holds membership right now in good standing. And Cheryl, it was when
We
I
are
spoke.
investigating to determine if a company can even join the Sierra Club. You lie so much, you lie continuously. We don't let corporations join the Sierra Club. We're checking the Sierra Club in San Francisco to see if it's even permissible.
Well, we have membership.
Okay, we appreciate your comments. They're well taken. We'll just keep this in order, keep moving on, please.
Sir.
The issue seems to be noise and also safety. So what agencies will oversee you in those areas? For instance, you're going to what guarantee do you give us that the fences will do it? Does the manufacturer have a film or a video that demonstrates it? Can you guarantee that? Also the safety issue. Who will oversee that? The Sheriff's Department, state?
When the Sheriff's Department come out and use the facility, they have their own qualified range safety officers that go through extensive training around safety. They would provide their own supervision. When we, for our club members, for the public to come out and use the, let's say, the trap and skeet area, we would have a qualified range safety officer out there that would be well qualified to supervise that. And as far as the noise is concerned, we do feel like we can provide that information on the company that builds these things. As far as the sound absorption, we can provide that information.
When you open your door, it should be able to guarantee.
What we're locating right now is basically where they are. We've gone through the biology, the archaeology, the topo surveys, and we've moved things.
So what will end up happening is the decibel level will be kept down through all of that. We're identifying the areas where that sound's going to travel, and then designing the remediation to encompass that.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the saddest part of all this is that it's going to divide this community.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't this going to be a dining facility? Are you going to be serving alcohol in this facility?
No, ma'am.
And my second question is to you and with your wife and your children. Would you like to live on Molitor Road if that was going to be built next to your home?
That's a good question, and I was actually looking at my BAs, using my BA certificate to buy a house out there.
Very good.
To Don Rush, because absolutely,
Yeah.
I like that.
I would buy one too.
Yeah.
Hey, you can buy mine.
Very good answer.
The right price.
The value should go up with the real estate.
No, because that's not the type of community we are.
Howard Kelly, Nomad. Do you folks realize this is not in contingent with our Longer 10-year plan?
No, it isn't.
None. You just violate every 10-year community plan that this community put together and in place and voted on it.
Yeah, but Don LaPree's the one that sold it to him, so.
Akatia Community Plan, the county set up, and I got it right here.
Yes, sir.
Good.
No, the one.
Yes, sir.
I had a question. What do you foresee your maximum occupancy on that property being at any given time? How many people do you foresee when you have it up and operating on a busy weekend? What is the maximum amount of people you'll have on the property and going to and from the town, stuff like that?
I think
we would have about, if everything was 100%, let's say there was a competition shooting, you'd probably have 200 people at a time shooting, going a half an hour, 400.
Sir, can you tell me how your plan there affects any of those on the knoll that overlooks the area, closer to 98?
You mean back up here?
Yes.
This up here?
Yes.
Right, that is all going into our study of how we're covering the ranges with the fences, with the berms, to keep everything basically sound. Let's say if you have 110 decibels of sound. At 10 feet, it's dropped to 104. If you go another 20 feet, it's dropped to 98. And that's how you look at your dead zones are created, and the sound goes back.
I saw the entrance, the drawing of your entrance.
Right.
Aren't there some, that's on the north side of 98. So how close to that knoll is the entrance?
The knoll.
The knoll. Well, there's a knoll there, and there's some kind of.
Oh, it's down right where, it's right where the road turns. The first turn down.
Okay, that entrance, is it close to the living facilities that are to the east?
There's a house right here.
Your entrance will be where it normally floods when it rains.
Yeah, exactly, right there.
Yes,
where it floods when it rains.
Don't tell them that.
They know it already.
My question was, is 25-foot berm, 25-foot berm that you want to build. I was told it's going to be at the end of my driveway, which I won't be able to see there anymore. And anytime anybody comes out here dove hunting or whatever, I don't care how far they are. You hear the guns, hill over hill, I don't care. And some of the people in Ocotillo are wanting this, and I think it's a wonderful idea. If it was out farther, away from Molokai, out, up in the hill.
Well, and that's why we're here today, to get the input and make the adjustments to the plan. That's what
We're not here to argue or hear smart mouths going on. We're wanting to solve this problem. Move it out farther, I would be happy.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sure other people.
Don't block our view.
It's awful.
Or the noise.
Or the noise. We got a retired military here that can't stand gunfire, that served in our wars, and that's a cruel thing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that the way we're going to design it will probably eliminate the noise that you're now hearing from the dove hunters, because it'll refract.
It's going to be twice as much.
Echoes.
Yeah, you're saying one gun does so much decibels. I mean, you say 200 people a day will be decibels.
It doesn't raise the decibel level.
You can just desert
Yes,
carry.
sir. Do you have plans to develop a water main infrastructure, and would it feed the No Mirage area?
There was a question about the water main.
Because of the buildings, the clubhouse, like that, we would have a well, and the fire department has indicated they wanted a fire flow of 1,500 gallons per minute for 2 hours. So we would have about a 250,000 gallon water tank, which would give us several days supply if it did go down like that. We have not looked at whether to put the pump stations and bring it into No Mirage and give them water too. I mean, this will be a system. If we were doing a subdivision, we'd have to build a 250,000 gallon tank, put the pump stations, be able to deliver water to the fire hydrants at 1,500 gallons a minute. And we'll be building that for this project. Now, whether something is worked out with the residents that they could tie in and use this water system, we haven't even addressed that concern.
First of all, the water where you're building this is no good. It's undrinkable. It's off the water. It's so salty. You can't drink it. And we have no fire department. We have no sheriff's department. So, you know,
Where's the control of this?
what's helping Ocotillo? Are we going to bring in the sheriff's department and the fire department here?
And you can't get a loan out here most of the time because you can't get fire insurance and lender won't loan to you.
I have one question about the traffic. Are you gonna have a traffic light there? We have an awful lot of accidents on
Oh, yeah.
That would be something that if the community would, if the community.
I think we'll get a traffic light on that.
The state highway will control the access, Caltrans, and they will want a acceleration and deceleration lane, so that when you pull out, you will have a left turn and you will have an acceleration and deceleration coming in.
Yes, ma'am.
24-hour facility.
Mainly a 12-hour facility.
12 hours. What happens during the other 12 hours, let's say at night? How much light, what are we going to look at in regards to what I see right now in the sky and what I see in Santee at my other home is a total different picture. You put light, I don't care whether it's just a porch light, you can't see what I see.
And that's an excellent point, because we thought about the traffic, being able to do night driving or low light driving. So that would be a consideration that we would listen to and take into our plan, to not have it, because I grew up on a sailboat. I know what it's like to be in the middle of nowhere with a star, so I appreciate that. Yes, sir?
Where's the water coming from?
Drill water?
We will probably drill the well about 500 feet is what we've been doing.
Well, 25 years ago, I was a meeting fighting. We've been draining water out of fire here, and it was pumping water out, taking it to make it go down, and everybody's uproar about the water level dropping. So if we're going to dump that much water out of it again,
Well, we're only doing on less than 25 acre feet over an entire year. The majority of that goes back into the aquifer.
I couldn't have here, sir.
Less than 24 acre feet per year, the majority of that will go back into the aquifer to replenish it.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I came in late. What kind of weapons are you going to be using? Going to be small arms fire only?
It will be, well, actually the 50 cal on down is considered small arms, but the majority of the would be like bolt action NRA competition with the bolt action
50 cal
308. Pardon me, sir?
I'm saying even 50 cal, you used to it after a while.
Yeah, our plan is not to get anyone used to it, it's to eliminate the noise. But I agree. Yes.
I have a question for you. What kind of medical facility are you going to provide people that come on site here? Because I know from personal experience, if you have a medical emergency here, it takes them a half an hour to 45 minutes to get to you. If you're lucky, you have to get the border. I had to get the border patrol to call because we don't have anyone here. And I almost died. So you get someone hurt there.
And that's a great point, because one of the courses that we would offer would be we're looking at offering like a desert, I don't want to call it
survival. But that doesn't say
like it's a survival. So we would have a qualified medic on hand virtually every day that would be able to handle any, of course, any emergency on the facility or anybody that had a problem in the community could come there and get treatment as well. Yes, sir?
What if you were to put the firing range next to the highway and have the cars in the car, turn your plans completely around, have the racetrack next to 98 and the firing range next to Highway 8?
That's something that we could look at, definitely. Yes, sir?
What are the normal hours of operation?
The normal hours would be sun up to sundown. So it would change. Well, it would change because of summer months, though. If the night driving is going on over there after the sun went down. I'm sorry, sir?
There wouldn't be anything going on over there after the sun went down?
It's not. We're not planning to, but when I spoke with the director of the Boy Scouts, overnight activities, when they come out and spend the night on the RV campground, there would be activity out there at night. Which I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Raymond Less with Citizens Oversight. Now we've been watching these private training camps go in more now. It's kind of a new thing. But I'm trying to find out who licenses this. Is there anything that actually watches you to say, gee, you're using too large of a firearm, or you're using automatic weapons? I know in the Illinois camp of North Blackwater, they said, well, we're not going to use automatic weapons. And then after they got it in, of course, they're using AK-47s and M16s because that's what you use in the military. And so the problem is, even a hairdresser has to have a license. But apparently these things, there is no licensing. So who licenses you and who watches over what you're doing to make sure you're doing the right thing?
The license is basically Imperial County. When we come in and after we've done all the studies and probably the EIR, they will do a resolution and they will specify how much traffic can come in, what the hours of operations are. And this is what is handled in the permit, the specific plan, and the approval of it.
So there is no licensing organization other than just the county or whoever?
The state and the county.
It looks like nobody. It looks like nobody is doing this yet, is what I hear. I mean,
in this facility, the last thing I can tell you is that we want is any automatic weapons fired. All right. This facility is modeled. If you look to the Ben Avery shooting facility in Arizona and the Clark County, Nevada recreational shooting facility that they're building out there, this is around the community involvement, being open to the public, and also providing a place for the law enforcement and other public agencies to train, which is in high demand. That's our business model, is modeled more after those type of facilities than the ones that people keep talking about.
Yes, sir. Would you be willing to put that on paper?
The automatic weapon?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me see if I can, Edie?
Okay, yeah, Edie Harmon, and I have a number of issues. I am concerned about some of the misconceptions on the letter that you put out. This project is completely inconsistent with the Ocotillo-No Mirage Community Area Plan that was adopted in 1994. The land agriculture is not a permitted use on any lands in the basin and has not been, other than what people had at that time. So when you're saying you're going to use less water than agriculture would have required, that's a non-issue because agriculture would never be permitted. The land is zoned for desert residential, one dwelling unit per 40 acres. As currently zoned, the most homes you could have on that 1,000 acres would be 25. They were not going to use the amount of water that would be required. If you've taken a look at any of the groundwater studies and the groundwater quality data and water level data that U.S. Geological Survey has been collecting in this groundwater basin since 1972, you should probably have some very serious concerns about sticking in a well and thinking that you're going to pump 25 acre feet of water from that. The water in that area has high mineral content. A lot of the wells have high fluoride. It would not pass the requirements, the state requirements or county requirements for drinking water without considerable treatment. The water in the area is likely saline enough that you could not even use it to irrigate native vegetation again. There are mesquite hummocks there that have been destroyed. That's an unusual plant assemblage. It's not likely to come back because they were there from different times when there was greater water. When there's heavy rains in the Pacumba Mountains, that section of Highway 98 is frequently underwater. There have been times when it's been closed because there's so much water in that section of Highway 98. It's a low level, it's a sink, it sits there and can take a long period of time. But if you want, or the law enforcement wants a facility where they can do the practice and the shooting, the Imperial County Rifle Pistol Range is on 640 acres that is leased from BLM. It's in the Superstition Mountain open area, southeast corner. It's off Huff and Wheeler Road. If you want indoor facilities in the area, and in that area there's a backdrop of high mud hills. You don't have to worry about the stray bullets. If there's really a desire for an indoor facility, it could go near there. There's private land that would be adjacent to that area. And I'm looking at the BLM maps. I got the information from BLM Township Range and Section. And if the military truly does need additional training facilities, we have Camp Pendleton in San Diego County. You've got the 29 Palms, the Marine Corps facility that has thousands and thousands of acres. You've got Fort Irwin, the National Army training facility. You have so many military training facilities in the California desert, and you can get maps from BLM, and I'm sure that if there's problems with training, I can't imagine why the military would not seek to use facilities that they have that have everything in place there. I also have concerns from some of the things I've read. What sort of long-term medical care or liability that you would have insurance to cover anything that happens to anyone at that site. And as people mentioned before, that without a volunteer fire department, it's very difficult to get any kind of insurance in this area. And it would be hard to imagine that your proposals would be viewed any differently than the applications or inquiries from other private property owners. But there's real serious considerations about the water and the inappropriateness of the site. I would think it would be very difficult to get the area revegetated. And I know I routinely call Border Patrol when I hear weapon fire as much as 2 miles away. I feel that it's of grave concern when I hear shooting after dark, when I know that there's law enforcement people on the ground or in vehicles that are out doing their job. And I don't know where those stray bullets are going, but I know that people can't see where they're shooting if they're shooting with legitimate weapons. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem like the right place next to an existing residential community that has some real serious limitations to develop. And if you read through the Ocotillo-No Mirage Community Area Plan, repeatedly you will see that this is inconsistent and that it would require, well, first it would require a general plan amendment, it would require zoning change and everything, but that kind of use is not consistent with residential zoning. I don't think it's consistent with residential zoning anywhere in the United States. I can't imagine that that's a compatible use. And so if the area is for low-density residential with 1 unit for 5 acres and smaller, and then surrounded by desert residential, it just seems like an incompatible use. There's plenty of places where, if there's going to be facilities, where you're not up next to where people are living and where it's a much safer environment. And given the range that those bullets can go, it just doesn't seem prudent to do it there. And
Well,
if you've been given
we have to file a specific plan amendment with the county. We are requesting a rezone also. So all this, and there will be
it would be
EIR
spot
done.
zoning. You don't give a special land use designation for an individual parcel which is surrounded by other parcels. There's all kinds of rules and regulations relating to zoning and land use in the state of California.
Right, you have to file in
And that would be
accordance with
spot
the
zoning.
state of California, a specific plan amendment, which we are going to do.
It still would be spot
And
zoning.
you bring up a lot of your points, and I appreciate that. Does anyone else have another question? Yes, ma'am?
Would it be fair to say that at this point, since you can't make contracts until you have your facility or just on the way, that you really don't know exactly who all would be using this facility? Would that be a fair way of?
It would be fair, but yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
You said that you're proposing putting like camping sites. How many sites
where you're gonna put it in. And you said you're a 12-hour facility, well, if you're camping, you're gonna be there more than 12 hours, would that be a week long?
I was 12 hours was at the shooting range, but the campground that we're looking at, the Boy Scouts will be allowed to camp within that land recreational vehicle site.
And how many patrolmen, how many are
Well, we have a 150 space recreational vehicle park, which is open to anybody, just like the ones that are down on Sunbeam and things like that. In addition, the Boy Scouts have indicated they like to come out on the property and camp, which, you know, they would be out there in tents, not so much in the RVs, but in tents and things like that.
The parking sites that you're talking about, 150, these are going to be water and electric connections?
Yes.
So you're talking about feeding the water to 150?
Yes.
Residences?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am?
I'm concerned about, I think I would be more comfortable with your idea if you emphasize the training of, say, local sheriffs and you know, the local law enforcement. But it's true that, as in other places, everybody from San Diego and Los Angeles comes here to shoot them up. Then, you know, if you would say our priority is to train law enforcement, and if we have room, we'll let others in, I would be more comfortable. But I'm not comfortable to opening it up, you know, this to just anybody. And to let everybody from the cities come and shoot them up over here makes me very uncomfortable, because people will start moving in just to do that. And I live in the central, and that's very close by, and they will start coming in. And it will attract people that we don't want around here. So I think if your priorities were to train law enforcement, as you said in your opening, and then it changed, in my view, from there. To train law enforcement, to train military, not mercenaries, but military. I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with well-trained border patrolmen. I'm comfortable with well-trained sheriff's deputies. I'm comfortable with security well-trained. But I'm not comfortable with my neighbor practicing all over the place.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, do you have a
Yes, on the recreational vehicle site. Now, is that going to have some kind of limitation on how long those people can stay? Is it like if snowbirds came in, they could stay for a long time, or can they just stay like 3 or 4 days and then they, you know, instead of setting up a permanent like residence?
That's not what we want.
I understand that. That's why I wondered if there's going to be a limit. Just like some places require you have to leave after a certain amount of time, you know.
Now you would put that into their resolution and stipulations for the RV park, if they can say 72 hours or a week or like that.
Which those?
That gentleman back there in the blue.
Yes, sir.
The area you have outlined is environmentally sensitive, and especially in archaeology, where some of the sites are over 2,000 years old. I don't believe these kind of sites to be mitigated with any.
And
we identified 101 archaeology sites on the property. Just on the 800 that we surveyed, which Laguna Environmental is submitting to the report on each of the 101 sites. We then took that information and moved the ranges, the roads, everything based upon the archaeology, or the sites there. They spent 3 weeks walking every 10 to 15 meters, the whole property. We GPSed every point, and then they went and collected it and everything else property that was found in I think it was 62, and we found another 100 when we did it. And so, you know, it's one site per 80 acres, and this plan looks far different than the one that we had before we started.
I haven't received any information, any information sent.
But they'll be coming.
Yes, ma'am?
I was wondering what kind of requirement there would be before anyone could even pull the trigger of a gun, what kind of
They would have to go through.
classes, how much, like at the 40 up front kind of thing.
We would have a mandatory club range safety class that they would have to go to before they could even go out and get on the range and fire.
That's it? That's all? I mean, don't you, isn't there a lot, I don't know that much about guns, but isn't there a law that to go buy one, you have to fill out a form and wait a certain amount of time?
That would be part of the training classes that we would offer would be around those courses that you're talking about. With the firearm safety, the basic firearm safety, and above and beyond that, we would require them to go through a further class on firearm safety specific to just the rules and regulations of range.
Do they do background checks?
That is something that we thought about, because with her concerns around, you know, we don't want bad people coming to the range and becoming even more of a threat. Yes, sir.
Is the funding and for this public record as to who is investing, who is putting up the funds to do this?
Absolutely. Everything is the ownership information is public. You can find it.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, absolutely. The website, some people, there is a dash between win-0.com and that's the
When
website.
you get 21,000 hits, how are you supposed to know which one is yours?
You can type it in.
I did type it in for 3 or 4 days, and I got 21. I had 21,000 different things to do.
You got to put the dash in.
The dash. If you put the dash in the middle, there's a hyphen.
Don't Google it. Put it in your.
www.
Type it right. Yeah, and I can afterwards I can write it down for you. So you
I
can
appreciate that.
Sure.
I have questions on the water.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is 24,000 acre feet in gallons?
25 acres.
There's 325,800 gallons per acre foot. The average person in his house is about 80 gallons per day per person. Now, when your biggest draw on your water is no doubt your irrigation. Down here, we figure about 7.5 acre feet of water per acre that we're irrigating. So if in your residence you use an acre foot, you've got maybe an 8,000 square foot yard. And the big thing is that with irrigation, you've lost the water. The water that you use, showering, everything like that, because of the septics, it goes back into the system. So if we were proposing a golf course, you know, 100 acre, 120 acre golf course, we need 800 acre feet of water for the golf course. The water quality is not a concern because Osmosis, who's owned by GE, you can build, they have plants that are unbelievable. On the last project we put in a 500,000 gallon water tank, plus an osmosis plant, and drilled 3 wells.
Where was this other project?
What?
Where was this other project?
Up in Colorado.
It's a residential development.
Oh, not a gun.
Not a gun club.
Yes, sir.
I'm Charlie Bennett. I'm a member of the Pearl Valley Rifle and Pistol Club. And most of the agencies that they're talking about already use our facility. And the deal about the 1,000-yard range, we're in the process of trying to develop them right now also. And the deal about NRA competition events that he's talking about is that they are with automatic, semi-automatic weapons, not automatic. So it's hard to compete in their kind of sanctioned events and not be allowed to use them if he's going to put it in writing, not having semi-automatic weapons. So that's a tough nut. But all facilities, we have, Pendleton comes down and uses our facility, and on special assignment deals that they probably can't get into 29 Palms for whatever reason. And we have security groups that come out of San Diego that rent our facility also. We're pretty covered.
Where is your facility?
It's out on Wheeler Road. Right on Wheeler Road. And about, I don't know, Ryan might be able to tell you when, but they approached us sometime last year, I believe, about either buying our facility or lease or whatever. Our club kind of turned it down and weren't interested. But we know from areas around there is a need for other shooting facilities, but so we are accommodating a tremendous amount of people.
And the semi, that's a good point that you brought up, Charlie. The semi-automatic weapon, the gun that you buy, and most weapons nowadays are semi-automatic. I was specifically referring to a fully automatic, like you see in a Rambo movie where he's just letting them go. That is not what we are interested in.
For information, Bureau of Land Management addresses anybody that comes in Imperial County about shooting automatic weapons. Our facility, as far as we understand, in Southern California in particular, is the one that allows it to shoot full automatic weapons.
But you're not in a residential area?
No, ma'am, no.
You're like a Fisher System out.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add that over the years, I have had many very, very close friends that were in law enforcement or different branches of the military. To the best of my knowledge, each federal agency that has a law enforcement component has their own training center and facilities, and they train their people, and they go to a specific place, and if they have to go and be recertified or do something at a frequency, they do that. And people that I've known in the military have done their training and their practice on the military basis. So I don't understand, because I know BLM, the law enforcement rangers that were really good friends would go to a facility in Arizona, at Marana, and other people go and get their training in Georgia. And my understanding from people in law enforcement is that each law enforcement agency has its own rules, regulations, and procedures and federal guidelines that they follow, and their people need to know their regulations, which may be very different in many respects from the regulations of another law enforcement agency. And because each governmental entity has its own set of regulations, and they need to know. And so there's not a generic training that's going to fit all law enforcement, whether it's state, federal, local, or whatever.
They would be allowed to come in under their own, conduct their own training on the facility. The need is there, absolutely, and I would be happy to talk with you after, Edie, and explain. I can show you where we've had to move our entire forces out of state, and it's having such a severe impact on our local law enforcement and military that I'm a personal victim because I got out to have a family, so it's impacting people, the sailors and the law enforcement that have to travel out of state and have family and be home at night. So to have a place where they could drive out, conduct the training, and drive back home and be home for dinner with the family is a huge benefit to the community and has less impact on the sailors and the law enforcement. The need is there. The facilities right now in California are not enough. Camp Pendleton it's just not enough. Yes, sir.
Number one, the military and jobs all volunteer nowadays. You know, if you don't get to stay home with your family, maybe you need to pick another career. I did it for 21 years, so I know what you're talking about. But how about the lead removal?
This range, it's our plan to be 95% lead-free. We want to do all composite ammunition. It's the it's a responsible thing to do for the environment, and it's the drift of the market anyway in California to lead-free ammunition. So that's another plan that we have in place right now. The 1 or 2 ranges that would be designated for lead would be set up to contain and recycle the lead, which it's a recyclable material.
Whoa. How are you going to contain and recycle? Because there's a big stringent rule to recycle lead. I don't know if you know that.
No, I know. I've been to.
It ricochets of the lead that stays in the mountain, and when you shoot again and it ricochets off, you have no control over it.
You line the backstop with the material, and then go in and mine the lead every few years. So that's something that we do. Yes, sir.
There was the airport land that was subject to be used on the other side of the Yucca Desert, which was a huge portion of land of it. Have you looked into using that? That's not close to any residential area. It's also a huge parcel of land.
Is that? I would like to get with you after.
Okay, it's just on the other. Well, where your boundary is starts the Yucca Desert.
Yep.
Where the Yucca Desert ends, going east, is where they planned on putting in the airport.
Right.
At least that was their thought on the airport, which leaves another big portion of land which is not close to any residential area, which would eliminate a lot of the problems that you're having right here, and would still only put it a few miles down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't heard you talk about the air pollution. As you know, Imperial County is about the worst when it comes to air quality. What did you say? Have you said anything about the dust?
Oh, are you referring to the dust that's happening right now? We've looked at by putting in the vegetation and the facilities, and then there's a treatment that you can put on that's environmentally friendly on the ground itself that would eliminate the dust problem right now, which my windshield and my tail is pitted because of driving on the 8, you have that, it becomes a dust bowl. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I'm listening to the guns that you have. You know, you're talking about having experience with guns. I've had experience. I was in the Marine Corps, and I was in armored vehicles, and on those armors we had 30 caliber, 60 caliber, and some of the bigger guns are 105 Howitzers, 120 mounted, one armored, and going down the small arms, the 30 caliber, we're instructed to hit a certain point with enough to tear through anything in the 30 caliber. Armor piercing is very strong. They can go through a lot of things. They can ricochet. They can go anywhere. And even in Camp Pendleton, where I was training, they're known to go to different areas. They're very sure that it doesn't hit any place. And over here, I think it would ricochet over. It would go somewhere, whether it happens or not. But another thing I'm very glad to hear is that Ocotillo is looking out for Ocotillo. They have a certain plans, what they're doing to try to save their homes. I think it's very commendable. We left this place about 10,000 years ago to live at the river, and people came and took care of this place, and they're taking care of it. The water is precious. Who put the water there? These people didn't put it there. Somebody else put it there for people to survive and live on. And we've got to think of the environment, what you're destroying out there. We talked about archaeological sites. Well, those are reminders of a past of people who took care of this area. This is not a battleground. It never was meant for battleground. We don't teach battle. You know, I've been through these things, and that's over. You know, the Army that's their job. The police force, that's their job. The sheriff, that's their job. It's not up to a bunch of civilians to come up with ideas and put Boy Scouts in the middle of it. Yeah. And believe it or not, I was one of the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout before I became a Marine. Helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, teach them how to shoot, how to fight? No. They'll learn that in time. I don't teach my grandson how to fight, but I will when the time comes. It's up to the individual to start talking about killing. You know, I taught people how to kill. I showed them how to kill. This will do it, that will do it. And I looked into their eyes to get them going to where they can do it. That was my job. I had to get them motivated to kill. And when you handle weapons, when you handle these things, you train, that's what they've got to be motivated to kill. And at a certain time, they can kill the wrong people. And to have a private army, no. If my own people started an army down there, the sheriff department will be there checking, my community concerned, the board of supervisors, what was that guy's name? It's always good. That supervisor, Line Grub will be the first one complaining. He's always there. He's watching my tribe. If the Kamiyao people up on the hill start having a training place up there, can you imagine what you guys would do? You'd think we're ready to hit Apatillo.
Get that howitzer out.
I'll tell you, I can bring in a fire team, which is a brand new automatic, 3 M1s, I bet you I can tear up this place. Just walk through. We can shoot, direct fire, we can do it. But those things that I'm talking about, you're talking about a deadly game. And the deadly game to play with for recreation? No.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I disagree with a lot, because the Boy Scout, the idea is to bring the Boy Scouts out there is to educate them around the environment and provide them with firearms, safety, and education. So that's,
no.
What is
Let's take maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to...
2 more questions, we'll wrap it up.
Oh, I hear a concern in the room about what, your plan is. I mean, at this point, you tell us what you're going to do now, but there are no guarantees that you might just set everything up and then turn it over to somebody else. So where can we see your business plan? And then I'd also like to know who were the biologists and who are the archaeologists who did your survey? And why Jude and Warlock hasn't received any of those results?
I'll get with you after, Terry, and provide you with the content.
Well, I think everybody should have access to your business plan.
And actually, since it's such a concern, what we'll do is work to, I mean, you can see our business plan if you go to the website.
I can see nothing on your website except that one page. I've tried every link. It's all under construction.
When we submit the specific plan amendment to the county, the biology report will be in there, the archaeology report. It will not identify the sites because that is confidential and it can't be disclosed.
Well, I'm asking who did
Laguna Environmental did it.
It's important. Who?
Laguna Environmental.
Never heard of that.
They did the racetrack here for the county 2-3 months ago. RC Biological, Robin Church, did the biological study.
One more question?
Okay.
One more? So to follow up on that question, then I know how it is with corporations. When I work with people in business, I always trust the people I'm working with. That's not the problem. It's the next people that you haven't had any agreement with that are the problem. And a new board of directors comes in and they decide, gee, we want to have automatic weapons and maybe we want to sell out to Blackwater because this is a great way to take the money out of it. Blackwater is sitting here with money bags and the investors say we'd like to have our money out in 2 to 3 years, typically when you go to private offerings like this. So there isn't really anything to stop you guys from selling to a mercenary army like Blackwater, is there?
Other than they wouldn't want this, it doesn't fit their parameters. This is a recreational training facility, a training facility for law enforcement. It has a business plan of what I understand they're doing is completely different.
Not really. They've got a driving track, they've got shooting ranges, they've got pretty much identical things that you guys are setting up. It's not that much different.
The intent, rather.
Well, the intent can change is the problem that I see, and that's when I've had trouble with agreements in business. It's never the guys like you guys are perfectly honest. It's the next guys who didn't have that agreement with me who come on board and say, I don't know who you are. That agreement you have, that was that other guy, and we got to make money. What do you want to do? Thing to fold or jobs?
That is in the specific plan with the county. They can say you can only operate between 7 and 6. You can only have so many ADTs, traffic coming in.
But in terms of selling out, you could sell out to Blackwater, right?
Conceivably, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So to anybody in the world.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you.
Everybody get their meal.
Very interesting comments.